All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast. Drew here. Hey, I am super pumped today to bring on Nick Koumalatsos. Is that right? Fucking nailed it. Nick is a former Marine Raider, owner of several companies, dad of three, motorcycle rider, jiu-jitsu expert, and all-around awesome dude. Right now, Nick is helping busy people all over the country get back in shape, take ownership of their lives through his 30-day Agogi program. And as much as I've kind of kept up with Nick, I can never pronounce his fucking last name. So we had to work on it for like 20 minutes before we recorded. But Nick, thank you for coming on, man. What did we talk about today?
Oh man, we talk about the systematic breakdown of the father in the house. We talked about the why that was happening and how damaging it is to our country and the family unit. And then we talked about taking ownership of our lives and bringing that back. How do we become the very best fathers, husbands, and men that we can be to change not just our own lives, our family lives, but our community's lives?
Absolutely. And we also talked about it's a great idea to do 2-a-days for jiu-jitsu for 30 days straight too.
It's a super great idea. I highly suggest everybody do it.
Definitely recommend it. So, well, Nick, man, thanks for coming on. And guys, let's hop into the episode. Are you ready to become the dad you know you are meant to be? Good, because this is the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast, where imperfect action is better than perfect ideas, promises kept are more important than promises made, and nothing happens unless you make it happen. My name is Drew, father of three, and founder of the Epic Dad Company. My mission is to help dads up their game and become the husbands, fathers, and men they're called to be. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the episode. All right, Nick, what's going on, man?
Welcome.
I like that. Welcome. I love the shirt, Nick, by the way. Rider,
Yeah.
Dad.
This is a good friend of mine's, Vince Vargas' shirt.
Vince Vargas.
I have another one that says "Make Dads Great Again."
I like that. Oh, you don't even see. I wore this just for this occasion.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
PKR on it.
I couldn't find it, like typical family fashion. You know, everything is in disarray during the week, and then we use Sunday usually to like put the house back together.
Yeah.
But between Monday and Saturday, it's just like. So I didn't find that shirt. So I was like, oh, I found this one today. So I was like, oh, I'll rep Vince.
Where are you guys living at?
North Carolina.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
You're not that far away then. I'm just down in Atlanta. So not that far away.
I actually was talking to a guy. I did a podcast on my podcast yesterday. He's like a 40-year black belt or something like that. He's 52. He's been training martial arts. He's in Atlanta. And I actually want to come film a series there. I don't know if you've been tracking. We've been doing this Let's Roll series where I go travel around different gyms.
Yeah.
And, do some jiu-jitsu and have some good eats. And it's like a jiu-jitsu travel show.
When did you get into jiu-jitsu? Because you did this thing where you went for
Stupid.
What was it? It was like 30 days straight or something, or like I don't know what it was.
It was 60. It was 2-a-days for 30 days. So I saw this older dude. He was probably in his early 50s, maybe late 40s. He's a purple belt, and he wanted to do 60 sessions in 30 days. I think he made it to like high 40s and didn't make it. And I was like, oh, I can make this way better than that. I was like,
yeah, this sounds like a good idea.
I'll do it as a white belt. So this was, I guess, a year and a half ago. I'll do it as a white belt, which is way harder, right? Because like the level of output as you get better is just a lot. Like,
yeah, you start to know like what you're doing, and
you're not working as hard as you are when you first start. It's like you're just trying to survive and not die. So I thought it would be interesting at that level to do this, challenge. And we can talk about challenges and why they're important for men and things like that. But so this next thing, I was like, okay, it's time to essentially, get punched in the face, and get it real uncomfortable. And so I did. So I said, I'm going to do this 60 sessions in 30 days. And
how long was a session? Like an hour or so?
You would hope, but really it always turns into like an hour and a half, or a little bit more. But yeah, basically it was a class, and then rolling, after the class for a certain amount of sessions.
Okay.
And then on Tuesdays, there were certain days of the week that I had like, I think it was like Tuesday, Thursday, and maybe Saturday morning was like a drill day. So I would go in, I'd get with a group of guys. They'd come into my gym or whatever, and we would do like an hour and a half of, I'd have somebody teach. So I brought an upper belt guy in. He would teach, and then we would drill for an hour, and that considered a class. And I kind of took that as like a little bit of recovery.
Yeah,
even though,
yeah. You're not like sparring.
yeah, even though the night prior I was, we were rolling hard, and that night I would be rolling hard, but at least it gave me like, all right, for this hour and a half, I'm gonna focus on,
At this point, you were a white belt. Like I don't know any of the belts, right? I'm stupid when it comes to
beginner.
stuff. I've always
like,
wanted to do it, but
beginner. Like
okay.
you don't like. I mean, granted, I had been at it for just over a year, right? So I had like a good base, but I mean, even at a year in, you're still just.
Was it just the challenge of it, or were you wanting to like accelerate the learning and be like, hey, I'm going to learn a ton of shit in 30 days?
Yeah,
I mean, just like I just want to do this because I know
you know how it is from doing what you do as well as your brain can only absorb so much, right?
Yeah.
Like you're only gonna take in so much. And one of the coaches I had during the challenge, Dana Cash, who has a gym up in Jacksonville, North Carolina, Labyrinth, for anybody that's in that area, hands down best training facility, best coaching in the area. Like there's nobody in Jacksonville that's gonna compete with him. So he would come in and do those drilling sessions, and he was one of the ones that told me, he's like, honestly, you're gonna forget more than you were.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like you're gonna reach a point where like it's just more of a physical and mental challenge, right? And then like I'm actually gonna retain.
What was interesting, he said your brain, our brains are very, very interesting things, right? Very powerful machines. He's like, yeah, you're not going to remember anything. He's like, but obviously you're going to take a break after this. And I did. It just worked out that I went on a 10-day vacation immediately following. So I finished the challenge, yay, and then we went and did a vacation down on an island in Florida, off the coast of Florida. You had to get a boat to get there. There's like no internet. There's no nothing. Nice. It's an island off of South Florida, and you're just stranded on this island. And so I took me and the little guy and my wife there. And when I came back from that, that's when things started to kick in. So it was like my brain needed to catch up.
Yeah, you should take a pause.
I needed to take a pause, rest, and then all the stuff started to kind of click. And that's really when. And then I got promoted that summer. And that's really I attest a lot of my getting my blue belt to that, really, like the speed in which I did. And
I imagine there's a lot too of just like being exposed to it that often.
Well, it's at the end of the day, if you want to be good, if you want to master something, the goal, the saying is 10,000 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be a good dad, you want to be good at shooting, you want to be good at finance, you have to have 10,000 hours of experience or something like that in that field. So how else do you expose yourself to, getting better at jiu-jitsu other than I need 10,000 hours on the mat?
Yeah.
I mean? Like
that's one approach,
you know what I mean? Like essentially it's just time, right? It's time and experience. You can't replace experience.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's why I did it.
Yeah. And you're still active in the jiu-jitsu community, right? I mean, you're going to gyms, you're kind of working your way up, and How often? Like you do it every day?
So I do it at minimum 4 times a week. We are actually in the process. When's this podcast going to air? I need
like 2 weeks or so, maybe.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, I don't even know. I don't even know if I should say it, but
you should totally say it.
I'm actually partnering with my coach on the business.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm coming in as a partner. Now, of course, I'm coming in as the business side of things. I'll let him handle everything and continue to get smashed. But we are actually in the mix of, I'm sure you track Johnny Slicks and all the other things that we do. So here where we're at, we've grown so much, and you've followed me over the years, so you've probably seen this, but we've had to like expand and move, and I had to build my home off. I had to move my office from the first location and then the second location to here. Johnny has to work from his office at home because the fulfillment lab, everything has just grown so much that we had to expand. We actually have three, not including our home offices, we have 3 different locations that we pay for. So we have the private gym, we have the manufacturing facility, and then we have a fulfillment and some offices, another facility. So we're constantly all over the place, right, in this area. Now, granted, like each location is less than a mile from the next location, but still not having everybody on one roof. And we actually get the opportunity to build an actual facility for both locations, which are going to be right next to each other. So Johnny Slicks, Always Forward Podcast, all of our offices.
You're gonna have like a compound there.
Yeah, basically we're building a compound. We haven't even told anybody this either. So you're getting first. You're getting first of all this, and then we're moving the gym over there as well. So we'll have JiuJitsu, 6,000 square foot of JiuJitsu, and then our 2,000 square foot strength conditioning facility in the back of it, all in one location. So it's exciting.
I would say you said something interesting too, like you're coming in like as a business guy, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about that, and like we'll get into dad stuff too, but this is just like an area of interest for me, like as a struggling entrepreneur. That we were talking before we hopped on, and
listen, all entrepreneurs are struggling, bro.
Yeah.
That's just the way, part of the game.
Like, I was telling Nick before, I was like, yeah, man, I'm trying to just handle so much. Like I'm doing Facebook ads, I'm doing fulfillment, I'm doing like product development, like everything. I'm like, I should hire somebody at some point. So I'd love to like understand what was the evolution of that for you, and like where did everything begin? Like, and we'll talk about your military career too, but like post that, like when did things start clicking? Like, hey, this is kind of the direction I want to take. And then as you started to grow, like what did it look like from a leadership perspective, and then like bringing on team members, and like what's your role now?
Now, it's my zone of genius 5% and 5% only. Like I focus on the out of everything that's done in the business, what is the 5% that only Nick can do?
Yeah.
Only Nick can have this conversation with Drew.
Yeah.
I can't, put somebody in my stead. I'm the only voice, my face, that's like whatever I'm good at, that 5% for the business, that's what I have to do. And that's the only thing that I should be doing. Now, every once in a while, do we get sucked into doing something that's not our zone of genius or 5% or something, and the whole thing, it's like, if you want something done right, do it yourself. That's the stupidest thing ever. Don't just remove that from, and I know the feeling. I've said it, I've felt it, I've thought it, but at the end of the day, it's not the accurate statement if you want to grow a business and scale.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like learning that the hard way right now. Cause like the business is getting to a point where it's growing a little bit, right? Like I'm still trying to do everything, but I'm not the expert at it, right? Like the example was like I was trying to launch a Facebook ad this morning, and I'm like trying to like press all the buttons, and then Facebook comes back and it's like, no, not approved. You can't do this. And I'm
like, so here's the deal with that. So unfortunately, it's never been harder to do PPC these days compared to literally just a year and a half ago, like pre 14.5. It was a lot easier. Believe it or not, up until probably 3 years ago, I managed all of our PPC.
Yeah.
Every bit of it. And it got to the point where I was like, this is, I mean, we're talking about a 7-figure business with Johnny Slicks. We're talking about my coaching business. We're talking about, my books are everything. Right. And I was like, this is not sustainable for me. And the business was growing so much that as a CEO, I was doing so many other things that, like, managing PPC or, pay per click advertising was bogging me down. Yeah. And that is truly a full-time job if you want it to be done right and make money. So that's really where I had to like remove myself as a bottleneck. Now, granted, 10 years ago, I started, and like you, I did everything.
Yeah.
Marketing, design, graphics, pay per click. I put the stuff on the website. I built the website. put the stuff on the website. I took the order. I took the money. I sent it. I took it to the post. I mean, I did it all.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful thing in that, right? I feel like everybody needs that experience. If you're going to start something from ground, if you're young and you're going to start something from ground scratch. Now, if you've got money and you can hire the right people and you can just be like, you're going to make a lot more money. You're going to spend a lot more money, but your return of investment is going to
it's going to shorten that. It's going to shorten that hockey stick.
So for instance, like look at Johnny Slicks. Johnny and I, he bugged me for like 6 months. Finally, I tried the product. Long story short, I tried the product and I go, oh man, this is $1 million. This is $1 million product. And it was with under 3 years, it was $1 million. It was a 7-figure business.
Yeah.
Now, would he have gotten that fast, done it that fast without me? No, because he got a coach essentially.
Yeah.
So on that vein, the biggest regret I have in business is not investing in myself, meaning hiring a coach, hiring a mentor, because what happens then is you shorten your experience length and you get that hockey stick much faster.
Yeah. It's like, why go through the same, failure that somebody has already done? It has arrows in their back, right? And can say, hey, you can go left or right here, but I'm just gonna let you know it's gonna be a lot easier if you go right.
Yeah, and you're still gonna make those mistakes, right? Like regardless, you're gonna make some mistakes regardless. That's just the way that it works. Even with a coach, like you're gonna make a move, and hell, the coach might even tell you, like, hey, I think it's gambling. Business is all gambling. You go take this move, and will it play out? You don't know, but that's what you're always testing. You're always pushing the needle. You're always saying, okay, this worked, that didn't work. This works, this didn't work. And sometimes we have to make tuition payments. Like we've made some big $1,000 tuition payments to go, well, cool. That didn't work
again. Yeah.
Won't do that again. And I'm talking big ones, man. Like, things, the amount of money that some people in America make in a year or more than they make in a year, we essentially flush down the drain by just testing.
Yeah.
And just being like, let's try it and see what happens. And then, nothing.
Yeah.
A tax write-off at the end of the year. But that was my biggest regret, man, is trying to go in on my own. Granted, did I do good? Did I build something sustainable I built a 7-figure business essentially without a coach. Did I have good people and people in my life to ask questions? Sure. But then I was like, it took me that long to do, like, we're talking
like
about,
if I would have, hired a coach at this time, or
6-7 years to get to that level, through experience, man. And then what I've done, and then I hired a coach, and I literally get 3 years of experience in 1 year.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, I got more time with my wife. I got more time with my family. I've got actual money in my bank account instead of just creating a cash eating machine to where I'm like, we're making money, but I'm still always broke. I'm sure, a lot of people can, understand what I'm saying there, especially if you're in that game. So that was my biggest regret, is not investing, even though you don't have a lot of money, investing in knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have the money to hire a coach or get in a mentor group, like I have an Always Forward mentorship group that I'm actually turning on probably today, to get people to sign up. If you can't afford something like that, right, or a one-on-one coach, then start investing time, money, and resources into learning the things that you need to learn, like you're talking about how to do PPC. Like get somebody that's an expert in it and pay for their course. If it's $100, $150, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to take, $5,000, whatever I've got, and put it into stocks, real estate, Bitcoin, whatever it is. It's like, okay, dude, like, first of all, that's not a lot of money, right? So why not take that $5,000 and spend it on yourself?
Yeah.
Because the knowledge that you're going to gain from taking those courses or getting that mentor, now you have the ability to solve people's problems, which now you can charge money, which means essentially your net worth has gone up.
Yep.
The ability for you to make more money has gone up. Like, you now know how to do a bunch of different things that, instead of that $5,000 at a whatever X return is going to make you $850 off that $5,000. Instead, that $5,000 could teach you how to make $300,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's like one of the best pieces of advice too. Like I'm early on my, kind of path and kind of entrepreneurial journey, but where I've seen like the biggest return from an investment, like is that right? Like is, hey, let me take $2,000, even though I don't want to spend this, and fly to an event, right?
Right.
And like and meet people that are in this space that are ahead of me that I can network with and build relationships with, and get a little bit of experience and knowledge, and like that's paid dividends,
100%.
Yeah, but
Your
versus
network,
like,
they have a saying, your network is your net worth.
yeah.
If you've got 4 millionaire friends, you're probably going to be the 5th millionaire.
Yeah.
It's the way it is. You are who you hang out with. If just the same thing, if you hang out with a bunch of lowlifes that complain and are victims and drink themselves to sleep every night with 24 pack of beer, do you think you're going to be the next millionaire?
Yeah.
No, you're going to be that guy, the overweight dad sitting in the recliner bitching about the whole world.
Yeah. Speaking of the whole world,
Yeah.
transition here. I think that's a good segue. What is up with men these days? Like you just talked about the guy that's drinking himself to sleep. He's not pushing himself, not taking on challenges. And I feel like we've gotten to a point in our culture where it's kind of an epidemic that men are not being men, and fathers are not being leaders, what they're supposed to be. Like, what do you? I've heard you talk about it, but kind of what's your thoughts around that?
So, this is a big conversation, right? And this is the whole reason for your podcast. And I would love to actually, go back and listen. Forgive me, I haven't actually listened to any of them, but I'd like to go back and see what kind of content people are talking about. But when I look at this, when I look at the epidemic of the lack of essentially manhood in our country, in the world, really, Western civilization, I guess you could say. You really go back to like the 70s. When I look at it, and you look at it from a macro standpoint, stepping back and looking at it from a big, from the mountaintop, look at the way families were 60s and earlier. There was a very rooted family orientated picture, okay, across the country. Fathers were in the home. Now, I'm not saying fathers weren't the greatest fathers. Post World War II, Vietnam, whatever, Korean War, there were some issues, right? But fathers were in the homes. Fathers went to work. You know what I mean? Families were a family unit. Now you get to the 70s, specifically in the minority communities, there was a very targeted, planned out campaign against men in this country. And like I said, specifically the minorities community with cocaine and crack. And then all of a sudden, with the influx of crack cocaine into our society, that was, done by our government. That's all very, we funded.
What do you mean? What do you mean done by our government?
Well, I mean, we utilized it. CIA utilized the drug trafficking to fund the war against communism in South America. Even Ronald, and then that's where the war on drugs came from. It was like this huge hypocritical thing. It's like Reagan creates the war on drugs at the same time the CIA is, literally bringing drugs in and using the money that we're paying to fund the fight for communism. It's like open source. You can Google this. You know what I mean? They're making movies and shows about it now. And then at the same time, they changed the laws to where if a guy even got I don't know the exact term, but it was like, you were basically locking guys up for essentially what can be considered minor crime, not violence, not anything like that. But you're talking about 10, 20 years for having any sort of paraphernalia or anything whatsoever. That to me looks like, if I look at it, that was because if you look at, say, Martin Luther King's era, right? Men were wearing suits. They had men's groups. They had men's community, collectively across the country, men, either through the church or through a group or through, some sort of club, they had men communities, and almost all of them, whether it was a union, the Masons, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
The fact is that men were united through a community. They all dressed well, they worked well, they went home and was part of their family. The 70s, you saw a shift with that. Lack of jobs, right? It was harder to do. Union stuff was getting pushed down. Some of the actual trade skills that were coming that the guys would go learn were getting shut down. Those were no longer being paid for. And then you saw the degradation of the family unit in the 70s. And then that went into the 80s. And then it just kind of, so this what we're dealing with right now is not something that has happened overnight.
Yeah.
Like, this is a slow roll of the breakdown of communities. And why is that? Why do you not, if the federal government wants to control a society, what's the easiest way to do that? Remove strong men from the community.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, if we took the same kind of community and the same kind of men that we had in the 60s and just put them here right today, like today, do you think that the government would get away with the stuff that they're pulling? No. As a community, as a group, as a tribe, as a country, the men would be like, no.
Yeah.
Because it's not what's good for my family.
Yeah.
Next question. You know what I mean? But we don't. We've allowed these things to happen, and we've allowed the pussification of men to include, they want to talk about toxic, the whole thing with toxic masculinity. You know what toxic masculinity is? The lack of masculinity. That's what's toxic. And the lack of that is what's causing, and now you talk about, men not being true men, being true to themselves, not having good role models. And now you've got, not to open a can of worms, but you've got really, really toxic females that are putting men down. And what's a crazy thing in my mind is women really want a masculine man. They truly do. Because what do we see when we have a very passive man in a male female relationship? When the woman walks all over him, she doesn't respect him as a father, as a husband, as a man. And that's when typically women cheat on them. They'll go astray. Same with the men. Men are not being respected at home. The wife's not respecting them. Next thing you know, there's some 25-year-old girl that thinks he's the greatest thing ever, and respects him, and talks to him a certain way. So of course that people are like, well, there's no excuse for that. Sure, you can say that, but you can put a system in place to where those things are going to happen.
Yeah.
That's just the way, that's the reality of it. And as adults, we need to understand that and go, okay, if I'm not having a good relationship with my wife, if she's holding resentment and I'm allowing her to walk all over me and I don't stand my ground, I'm not the man of the house, and I'm not giving her the things that she needs, and she's not giving me things that I need, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think what's good to see is there's been, kind of a little bit of an uprising, right, from men. Like there's that, it's
happening.
And, you saw it like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, like kind of start to pop up, and it's gained popularity, since then. But there's like a reason for it. I think like guys are starting to wake up and be like, you know what, like I didn't do this to myself. But like you said, it started, years and years ago. And so it's really good to see is that uprising. But I think what guys need to realize is that it's going to have to be a generational change, right?
Yeah.
It didn't take 2 or 3 years for us to get here, although it's been accelerated the past 2 years. It's going to take us being great dads, being a leader to the next generation, kind of breaking that chain there to have it continue to flow, right? And so when we look 60, 70 years from now, like we're in a much better place. And so I see guys like get discouraged because they're like, well, it's not, we're not fixing it like right now. And it's like, no, this is a long game.
No, it's a long game.
It's a long time.
It's asymmetrical warfare.
Yeah.
It is. It truly is. So let me ask you this. Did you grow up with a dad?
I did. Yep.
You did?
Yeah. So good familial unit. Mom and dad are still married. They've been, together, God, almost 40 years now.
That's awesome.
You know, it's not like the perfect marriage. It wasn't the perfect family.
Which
You know,
one?
but
What
yeah,
is?
right.
Yeah, what is?
Yeah, but no, had that role model to look to. And I think part of it, like the reason I started this business, this podcast was looking at, you know, the kids that are put in those positions that we are talking about, right? Like they don't have a father in the home. They're being raised, you know, just by their mom, which is great. Like great on the mom, like trying to do that. But like if you don't have a male role model to look up to, like you can just look at the statistics. Like if the dad is not present in the home,
There it is.
like suicide rates are up, like criminality is up. You know, it's just a whole host of things that
Yep.
happen. And when you look at what's the commonality of those, like it is men and it is dads being a leader in that family.
You look at a bad situation, no matter what it is, whether it's a rape, a burglary, you know, it doesn't matter. Breaking, entering, gang involvement, doesn't matter. You look at a guy that gets, you know, even in his 20s or in teenage years, he gets pinched for something. 90% of the time, that person did not have a father in his home.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those people. I did not. And what's interesting is when I look at the individuals that I was in with special operations, majority, and I'm talking 80% or more, did not grow up with a father in the home.
Yeah.
That's
Why do you
crazy.
think that is?
I think that we actually talked a lot about this back then. I think that men that grow up that way are looking for something. The ones
Yeah.
that want to be better.
Yeah.
I think that, and for me, I was always that way. I was constantly looking to, let's see, what's the word? I guess in a way, better my, like the next level. Even though if I didn't know that, I was trying to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was just trying to get something out of life and to do something better. And I think that there's a certain subsect of men that even though they don't have a father in the house, they are on that journey. And a lot of them, you know, the ones that, you know, if you're poor, and you know, and I hate this stigma that like, oh, you must have been dumb and poor if you joined the military. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say dumb, you know. I didn't graduate high school. Now I have a master's degree, but nonetheless, you know, me not graduating high school is had nothing to do with, you know, how smart I was. There's a lot of other things, but you know, you typically look at that. That's what people think. And I don't think that's the case, but I do think that when you are raised without a father and you're in a, you know, you're just like, for me, it was just my mom and my brother and me. She was working one or two, you know, sometimes two jobs just to make ends meet. So me and my brother were kind of left to our own devices a lot, which led to me getting in a lot of trouble, having 2 felonies by the time I was 13. Oh, excuse me. And so it was very much an escape. It was a, you know, you can take someone who has no opportunity, but if he has the will to fight and he has the will to make some of himself, that's, you can do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It gives you the opportunity to level up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it puts
You know what I
everyone
mean?
in like a level playing field, you know, like regardless of background, like you're saying, regardless of status, like when you put the uniform on, you are the same exactly as the guy sitting like right next to you.
And
You
it's
know?
on you. If
Yeah.
you want to progress, you want to make the effort. Now, is there some political bullshit involved? Yes, I
Oh
got
yeah.
out. I got out of it. I got left because of the political shit. But nonetheless, I made it to become, you know, a Marine Raider in special operations, which gave me, you know, a resume to continue to level up my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that. I had to go through those selection processes. I had to beat my body up. I had to go do the things that I did and to make myself harder and to make myself, you know, a better person.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't stop there. Just because you're doing that, trust me. And by any means am I saying that every special operations guy is the best human being that there is. No, that's not the case. There's plenty of shitty human beings out there that are in special operations. What I'm saying is there's a unique personality trait in certain men that are constantly looking to level up. The fact that you have this podcast means you're one of those individuals. You're somebody who's like, how can I turn the needle up on me being a good husband, me being a good entrepreneur, me being a good father. You know what I mean? Every little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. And like what's interesting, like you mentioned the part about you growing up without a pops. And I would agree with you. Like part of the reason you probably joined was like, hey, to find that community, to find like male role models again, to prove to myself that like I'm worth it, right? And I think what's interesting though is I, if I really like deep down think about it, like why did I join the military, is the same type of thing, but coming from like a different angle, right?
Yeah.
It's like I had a great upbringing. We were middle class, but I never like wanted for anything, right? Never really got in any trouble. My pops, has this awesome business, right? That if I want to, I can just step into,
So you weren't
and take
challenged.
over.
Not
Yeah,
really.
yeah. And I was like, fuck it, man. Like I need to go do something on my own, like to prove to myself that I can do this,
Yeah.
So it's like you're coming at it with like
Which is so
big goals
important
too,
for
man.
young men. For men need to be, in young men, I'm talking teenage boys, even younger, need to be put to the test.
Mhm.
We have to, like, we're genetically designed to be put through the fire. Like, we have to have that. Otherwise, we don't reach our potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that, man. Like the when I feel the best is like when I'm going through some type of challenge, right? Like something hard. And if I take a month off or something, from like having a goal or an aspiration and like digging into it, I feel like shit. I'm like, I'm getting depressed.
Yeah.
I need to be driving towards something.
Well, it's funny. I made a video with Bedros Koulian, and I said, hey man, so I went out because he was my business mentor for over a year, and so I sit down with him, and I made a little video. I said, hey, if you're gonna share one thing with men in my audience about how to be successful, what would it be? And that was his exact go-to, was that right there. He said, men are like German shepherds, high class, like a high breed German shepherd. Great dogs, absolute great dogs when they have purpose, when they have
Yeah,
a job,
uh,
right? When men have purpose and they have a mission, whether it be find bombs, find drugs, protect family, whatever it may be, right? Like whatever that dog's trained to do, it needs to be trained to do something. What happens with those dogs when they're not trained to do anything and
yeah.
left their own
Sorry,
devices?
eating everything in your house, like ripping your wiring apart. You know,
Everything, right? Digging holes in the backyard, self-destructive, rolling around in the mud, acting like an asshole. I've got one of those. I got two golden retrievers. One was Leo when I got out. I got him, I think, right when I got out. He actually went through training and ended up becoming my service dog. I wrote a book about it. It's right there. Excommunicated Warrior, 7 Stages of Transition. It's all in the book. Life-saving. Got me through a lot. Now he's like an old family pet, but he's had training. We just went on a boat the other day, and everybody was like, "Oh, this dog's so good." I was like, "Well, it's like 25 grand in this dog of training, so he better be still good." Um, and they're like, "Your dog's not on a leash." I'm like, "Oh, he's on a leash.
yeah,
He's on a mental leash.
he knows it.
But he still has purpose, and he knows what like his commands and all the things that he has. He knows what he's doing." Now, the other one that we got, he didn't go through training, and he is all that. He's just an absolute asshole. This dog is an asshole, messing up everything all the time. He needs to go to training. But that's the difference, right, between a dog that has purpose
Mhm.
and a dog that has, that is just a pet and has no purpose in his life and no training. Men that we see that are just floating through life and have no purpose and have no mission and don't know where they're going in life. What do? Self-destructive habits, right? They create self-destructive habits, whether it's through drinking, whether it's through women, drugs, gambling, porn. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever they can find to, fill this like sinking hole of pleasure, right?
Mhm.
They think that I just want to feel good. I just want to feel good. But the problem with feeling good is it literally is a hole that never gets full. That's
Yeah,
why
it's very temporary.
that's why an alcoholic never stops drinking, because you can't ever fill that void. A heroin addict is never going to stop doing heroin because He just wants to feel good, and then it wears off. He wants to feel good again. So it's men have to have purpose. We have to be driving towards something. And we're not our very best versions. And this is the reason why challenges and doing hard things and like making ourselves uncomfortable is absolutely crucial for men's, evolution and growth.
Yeah, and so like when you got out of the military, how did you find that purpose? Like I know that's one of the things that I struggle with, right? When I got off of active duty, it's
I
kind of
was
like, hey, that's my identity, and like how do I overcome that and kind of redefine my purpose?
So I was very lucky. I got out and I started, I immediately went into contracting, most guys do, right? Because that's all you can do, right? You're as good as that's all you're as good for. So I immediately went into contracting. I did that for a little while, but unfortunately, my thought was this: if you get out and you're making six figures, right? You leave the military, all of a sudden now you've got, you're contracting, you've got healthcare, you're making a ton of money. Life is good, right? That's all you need. No, no. Money is great. Money is a great tool. It solves a lot of problems. Never, apologize for having money or making money. But money is not going to fix your brain and fix your heart. So I struggled very, very, pretty deeply. And that's what that book's about is going through that transition. After I finished contracting, I started my first business and I met this guy, Carl Munger, who was at the time, the executive director of Gallant Few. And I'm not sure he is anymore, but so he put me on a path to help veterans, which I was kind of doing on my own anyway. And I was utilizing, a year and a half out, a lot of my guys were coming to me and be like, hey, I'm about to get out. I'm getting medically retired. You're doing really well, or what they appeared I was doing really well. I was actually falling apart. And I was like, cool. What we'll do is I'll use my network. We'll start going to some of these different events. We'll pull our money together and we'll go on these trips and I'll introduce you to all the different VPs and presidents that I've met. Right. And that way you do what I did. You get a six-figure job and everything's good, right? You're making $150,000 a year and life is good and you can drive on without the military. Right. But actually doing that, so that kind of became my mission, right? Like I linked up with him. He helped me start a nonprofit. I worked under him for many years, and that became my mission. And what was really neat about that is when I started that, I took the, I guess, the onus on me, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna help my team guys, my dudes, then I need to know whatever the therapy is, whatever the opportunity is. I'll put myself through it first to vet it, to see if it's like hokey pokey stuff or if it's like legit therapy. So I went on this journey of kind of self growth, self discovery, and work. Like I ended up going to, it was funny. One of the most beneficial things that I ever did was going to basically an inpatient brain clinic for traumatic brain injury and post traumatic stress. And Drew, you'll get a kick out of this. I filled out the thing to try to find out more information, and it had a bunch of questions there, really just to learn the application process so that I could send guys to this thing.
Yeah.
And they called me and they were like, hey, Nick, we got your questions. And we're wondering if you could fly out here tomorrow. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Like,
not for
not me. I'm cool. And they were like, they're like, yeah, so can you be here tomorrow? Like, you need to be here tomorrow. And man, when I went and they started doing the interview process, I quickly learned that I did need to be there. I completely fell apart. And anyways, that radically changed my life. That's in the book as well. And so things like that, right? Like going through and doing yoga, doing meditation and doing EMDR and so this became my purpose. I was like, I'm going to go vet all these different programs. And what's interesting is the more I let go of my ego, the more I let go of like me being this like tough, cool guy raider, the more I let that go and got more vulnerable and got more honest with myself, the more things started working. More of the therapy started working. the better in shape I got, how I was eating better. I got my hormones in check. I was just very open. I was like, okay, I'm going to get very comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm going to get real honest with myself. Look at all the nasty things in my heart and my head that I didn't want to deal with, and deal with those things. Now I call it owning your shit, right? You have to, before you can fix somebody, you got to own your shit. And then I'm pretty sure that's in a way, a biblical term.
Yeah, Leviticus, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, but that was really the journey. That gave me purpose. So initially it was helping veterans. Then I realized that I was jacked up and I needed to get help, and that became my purpose. And then once I understood that how important it was to be purpose driven, well, that just changed everything. Now it was like, everything needs to be purpose driven. And I got through what I call from a divorce. Me and my wife have done podcasts on this, current wife, on basically adult adolescence and going through a divorce as an adult and all the stupid shit that you do, and which we both did. And then, getting back to that was like the pleasure seeking Nick, and then finding the purpose driven Nick, which that all of a sudden your heart is full. Like that's what actually makes you feel like you're accomplished. That's what makes you feel full inside, to where you don't need to drink. You don't need to do all these things because you're serving others. You're reaching goals that are not pleasure based.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, most of the time they're very painful to get to.
They're uncomfortable.
They're uncomfortable to get to. And so that's kind of how I was very fortunate, is I met him, and he gave me purpose. And my purpose at the time was getting as healthy physically, spiritually, mentally as I could, and the same time trying to help others do the same thing.
Yeah. I think what's big about that is helping others too, right? You mentioned that. Like, I think it kind of comes back to like the conversation we were having about the culture of like everything is kind of geared towards the individual, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. Is that there needs to be a larger purpose other than just for yourself, right? To be truly fulfilled. And like, that's where, for me, at least, that's where family comes in, right? Like I've got, I got 2 girls and a boy, brand new son.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's fun, man. Boy, dad, finally.
Listen, I got a 20-year-old, a 16-year-old, both girls.
Yeah.
And now I've got almost a 2-year-old. It is different. It is different. And I'm digging it.
Yeah. It's
don't get me wrong. I love my girls, and I was actually wanting another girl, and you could understand this.
Yep. Because I know it.
I know it. And and to be a little selfish, I know how much little girls love their dads.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know. Like I feel like with girls, there's a period, and my oldest is 6, right? So like I'm still early in the journey, but so they love dad right now, and I know there's gonna be a period to where probably around like, I don't know, 11 or so, they're like wanting nothing to do with me, right?
I will never.
But then they do a boomerang.
But I remember, as about 11 years old, my daughter. We were, I was divorced from their mom. So when we did 50-50 time. So when they were with me, my youngest, we would read books, and she would sleep with me in the bed, right? And we would do our little dad-daughter stuff, and I remember, and it was just like the best time for me, because like it was all about us, and she was like she's just this, the deal. Like when little girls are they're just so sweet, man, and just so much love. And I will never forget, it was around 11 years old. She goes, "Dad, time to go to bed." She's like, "I'm gonna sleep in my bed tonight." And it was like
heartbroken. Yeah.
Oh my God. No warning, no down regulation, no like a couple nights a week. You know what I mean? It was just like dad-daughter time, done. And that was Drew. That was it. That was the shift, man. It was like one night, it's just the door's gonna slam in your face, and you're gonna be like, there was no warning whatsoever.
I know, man. I'm just soaking it up as much as I can now.
Do it. Because they turn into little women. They go from little girls to little women like overnight.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like my oldest one just graduated kindergarten yesterday, which it's just like it's incredible, man. It goes by so fast. It's like It's the biggest
God,
cliche in the
way too
world, you know,
fast.
but
Yeah,
you blink and like it's
I told Allie, I said when he was born, I said, listen, because she wasn't really into like the baby thing because she's like so small and she's like, I feel like he's so fragile. I just want him to get like a toddler age. I said, listen, don't say that. I said, this shit is gonna go by the blink of an eye. I said, he just was born. I swear, in 18 years, you're gonna blink. He's gonna be graduating high school, and you're gonna be like, what happened? Because I've experienced that whole,
the whole spectrum. It kind of
the
starts
whole
over.
spectrum. Yeah. And I'm like, listen, don't ever say I wish this, or I'm looking forward to, like, just be in the moment 24/7, because this kid's going to grow up so fast. And even just, he turns 2 in August and she's already been like, I can't believe this is happening. So I'm like, see, like, just keep everything slow. let's not speed up anymore.
Yeah. Well, so you've got 2 girls that are older than.
Yeah.
I want to get your perspective on that because like my oldest is 6, right? Like, what do I have in store for me? What should I
Oh,
be
a lot
prepared for?
of drama, man. A lot of drama. Love them, and teach them the way now. Like, the more you can teach them and love them now and be there for them now, it'll pay dividends in the end.
Yeah.
You know, but eventually that door is going to get slammed in your face, and you're going to have no warning, and it's gonna hurt your feelings, man. And I looked at him then. I was like, who are you, and why? Where did my daughter go? It's like aliens came and took your brain and replaced it with an alien brain. It's wild, man. But the interesting thing is you love them in a different way, because you start seeing, not that they didn't have, their personality as a kid. It's kind of the same, that you see a lot of traits that they were even as a baby. Like, I look at my oldest and I see certain things, and I see now, and I'm like, oh, that was always there.
Mhm.
That little personality thing was always there. But you really get to see them turn into adults. And, you know, eh, and if you did your job right, then, there's a lot of good things that come out of that. And that's the interesting thing, is you go from raising babies to raising adults, and you really get to see what type of people they are. And that's very interesting. It's very awesome to, like, watch them turn into adults.
Yeah, like their own person, making
Their own person. And they want that. Like, you especially, I think, with girls, they want to feel like they're their own individual person. And so you kind of have to, like, balance a little bit of that and let them be their own person, within safety, because there's obviously things that they don't really realize yet. But it's a different stage. So you have to let go of the old stage. You have to cherish it for what it was, and then really just go, like, all in on this, like, teenage stage, and go, that I'm going to appreciate this for what it is. Like, for instance, the other day, last night, I was talking to my 15-year-old, and thank God she doesn't listen to any of my podcasts. She was in the car, and I had asked her a question, and it just, her whole attitude, I was like, what about this? And she's like, no. Okay. So what about if you took, what if, cause I'm gonna go pick up my grandfather's boat in Nashville. It's a little John boat, but like me, I think it's so old. My mom went fishing on it when she was younger.
Like family boat.
Me and my little brother grew up fishing on it. Now I'll be able to take, my son on it. So we're gonna fix it up. And anyway, so I was like, hey, why don't you drive to Nashville and we'll drive it back? She goes, oh, no. So everything that I asked like 6 things. I came in laughing. I was telling my wife this, and everything I asked, it was just like, boom. And I was like, you remind me, and I didn't tell her this. It was like, she reminded me of, like, the Wendy character from Addams Family.
Oh yeah, the daughter with
the daughter,
ponytail hair. Yeah.
Yeah. She was just like, everything was just like, ugh, that's awful, and it was just such a teenage girl negative mood that she was in. And for some reason, and a lot of guys would get real frustrated at that, right? They'd be like real frustrated. For some reason, I just laugh, because if you step back and look at it, it really is just like this, whatever mood she was in at the time, she was just like, no, nah. And she was making fun of me. She was like, no, I don't want to go on a road trip with you. You stop every hour to pee. You hate being in a car. So like you're miserable to be with on a long trip. You don't even like driving down to Wilmington. You're like, oh, this is so long. You know what I mean? So, and I'm just laughing. It's just, so it's fun, but in a different way. You know what I mean? And if you step back out of it and go, listen, this girl's 15 years old. The hormones are all over the damn place. You know what I mean? Half the times, they cry for no reason whatsoever. What's wrong? She's like, nothing. I'm like, I don't understand why you're crying then.
I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She goes, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, I love you. And so it's a different stage. And they go through it, but it's awesome to watch them kind of go through that whole process and to kind of become the people that they're becoming. It really is it's hard to explain, but it's a beautiful process.
Yeah. I mean, I know we'll be there, sooner than I would like.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I just hope that like that the lessons that I'm trying to instill in them are going to, stand the test of time. Cause like, I'm sure with your 15-year-old, like you're not there all the time. Right. And like, she's going to have to encounter, difficult decisions she's going to have to make. And like, I'm just hoping like what I'm doing now, when they're in their younger years is going to translate. And so you're doing the right thing, man. You never know. Right. You're just
and I told him both this, actually, Vince Vargas and I were talking about this because he's both got older daughters just like I do. And, our biggest thing was the thing that we communicate with them is like, listen, I know you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like we're all going to make mistakes. And this goes for boys too. But at the end of the day, it's like, I just don't want you to make a mistake that dad can't fix.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing. And I've verbally said that. I've verbally said like, listen, I understand you're going to go out into the world and you're going to do your thing and you're going to make mistakes. Right. And they're not going to be decisions that dad would make for you. But you have to make those decisions. My only thing is to try to think about those things and not make mistakes that dad can't come in on the back end and fix if need be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some mistakes are a little bit more permanent than others.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I guess that's our biggest fear, right? As fathers is that right there is them making something happening that we can't help with.
And I mean, you hit on right there, just the communication piece, right? It's just like, I feel like that's where a lot of dads, and I'm not in this, situation yet where my kids are teenagers, but, I think like you have to communicate with them and like be real with them and try to, because like I've always said, like when my kid is, in high school and she's out like drinking at a party or whatever, and she knows that like dad's not gonna be happy about it, but I want her to know that instead of her hopping into a freaking car, like she needs to call me and I'll come pick her up. And I want her to be able to trust me that much to know that she can communicate like anything to me.
And that's a hard balancing thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where a lot of communication and like just like this one, talking about, and men, if you're not having this conversation with your daughters, then you're messing up. But the reality of sending nudes or certain text messages through social apps or anything like that, like if you're not having that conversation with your daughters and you think that they're above it or they can't be manipulated into doing something, then you're highly mistaken. So from my popularity point of view, I had to tell them like, listen guys, like just know whatever you do on the internet or on that phone, it's there forever. Is there forever. And if you don't think that you won't be manipulated, then you're deadly wrong. And unfortunately, I've had friends that their daughters have been tricked and things have been leaked on the internet and things like that. And that's horrible, man. And imagine what the damage that does to that little girl. You know what I mean? I mean, even a grown woman, let alone a teenage girl. So those are the important conversations that you need to have. Those are the things that's like, just like our own individual self growth, right? We don't want to, we grow by, pushing things and living on the fringe, right? Living outside, trying to push the edge of our comfort zone. Okay. Well, being a good husband or being a good father, that also means the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Having those uncomfortable conversations. So that and you know what, and this is what my girls did. Oh, ooh, dad. Oh God. I would never. Oh my gosh. Yeah, sure. You say that, you know what I mean? You say that, but I want it to be said. And I want, not only that, I said, when something happens, whether you're 16 or 25, I want you to think of me. I want you to think about this conversation, because those things matter.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it's a crazy world, man. Like they've got to, I feel like bad for kids these days, man. Like I didn't have any of that stuff growing up. Neither did you.
No,
Like
nothing.
there's so much more stuff coming at them now, like at a younger
The
age.
shit that the shit that I did as a
I know.
teenager
I'm like, I'm
in the
glad there was
90s,
not a cell phone around.
there's no proof,
Yeah,
nothing. I'm
yeah.
clear.
You don't have
Yeah,
a selfie of it. Didn't happen.
yeah.
But yeah, it just forces you to have those conversations that like maybe you didn't have with your parents, right? But it's just the world we
Absolutely
live
not.
in, and us as the dads and the protectors, like we're forced to have those conversations. I was
You
just kidding with my wife like the other day. Like I said, she just graduated kindergarten, my oldest one. And I was like, "Is it time for like the sex talk yet?" I was like, "I don't know. Like should we just go ahead and do it?" And she's like, "No, no, not yet." I'm like, "I don't know. She's 6. Like, you know,
you'll know
yeah,
when that time comes, you'll know. Um, but yeah, like not being afraid to have those conversations. And like, what guy wants to have a conversation about sending nudes over the internet?
yeah. No, it's not fun.
No, that's not fun, right? That's like, this is like, why should we even have this conversation? That should be common sense. You and I both know it's not.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And it can create a lot of damage across the board. And so across, all those things, like, I now with my business partners and my wife, and she even does it to me, we're emotionally mature enough to where we go, hey, this is going to be an uncomfortable conversation. Oh, cool. But if you're emotionally mature enough, you know that growth will happen on the tail end of that. You know what I mean?
mhm,
If both people are emotionally mature and both people are like, okay, this is going to be an uncomfortable conversation, but this is one of those opportunities to where I can get better,
mhm.
even if I'm the one at fault. Maybe even more so if I'm the one at fault. You know what I mean? And that's where we as men we need to start having these uncomfortable conversations. We need to start having these uncomfortable conversations with the people in our circle, with our family, and definitely with our kids.
Yeah, and I think we like when you should have that conversation. I think most guys do, right? There's just you feel it in your gut. You kind of have like a sense of like I know I should probably do something here, but we kind of back down from that. And I feel like
Yeah.
every time you do that, whether it's like a physical challenge, a conversation that you need to have, like every time you don't do that, yeah, it's like a little piece of your soul is dying, right?
Yeah.
And so you're getting worse. That's where you could have that conversation and grow, right?
Yeah.
But
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, well, are you treating your new son like differently? Like you've had two kids that are a little bit older. Like, is your approach to parenting different? I know it's a boy, too, so that's a little bit different. But
So yeah, I think naturally with even not even I think if he if he was if he was a girl, if I had a third girl, I think it'd still be different.
yeah,
You got to keep in mind, I became a father when I think I was 20.
yeah,
I think I was 20 years old when she was born, and and she was born. Yeah, I had just turned 20 years old. Everything is an emergency. Everything is a level 10 whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, from her crying to changing a diaper to needing to eat to whatever it may be, whatever developmental thing that she was working on, everything is code red. You know what I mean? Um, being a father at 40, well, you don't take things so seriously anymore. You know what I mean? Like you take the serious stuff serious, and the rest of it, you're just like, you're all right, bud. You know what I mean? A lot less stress.
yeah,
And I think that, I'm not saying that you should wait to 40 to have kids, by no means. But life does, and as you get older, you get a little softer. That's the reality of it. You get a little softer, especially if you're working on yourself and growing in yourself. You do become a little more emotionally more open,
mhm,
right? A little more vulnerable. Ego, if you put your ego away, And you just become a better. I really do think you do a better job of being a parent later in life, and it's just through experience. Now, things that I have done different is I'm much more aggressive. Like he's
okay.
And what's interesting is if you look at me as a child, as like a 2-year-old, my mom goes, "Oh, you were such a sweet boy. You weren't really aggressive. You were just, you got a little more aggressive when your brother came along. But then you really didn't aggressive until you were like much older." And this little kid is like a cave baby. He's like bam bam. But I've been slapping the table and making animal sounds and growling at him since he was a week old, which he thinks is hilarious. You know what I mean? Like he just laughs and laughs, and now he does it. And so there's a very difference the way I was, and this actually gets brought up in the house a lot, of how I was as that age compared to how he is now. And that's because he has a father in the home, So yeah, there is very, very different things that like me getting bullied as a kid. I got bullied up until I was probably 10 or 11 years old. And it was a very, I did a podcast with my mom on my podcast about a lot of this. And that story was brought up, but it was, I had to learn how to stand up for myself by myself. I had to get to a point. What's scary about that is that could have gone to a point to where some kid could have gotten hurt. And now I would have been in trouble. I would have been at fault. But they wouldn't have looked at the past 10 years of me getting bullied from, I moved schools every 6 months. So they wouldn't have looked at, well, this kid doesn't have a dad in the house. He moves every 6 months. He's in a different school every 6 months, and he's been bullied at every school leading up to this one. And now he snapped. Fortunate for me, I didn't hurt the kid that bad, and we became friends after, which, kind of is the way that things go like that.
Yeah.
So, but for him, he won't ever have that problem because I'm going to, it's the whole thing is like, it's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener, a gardener at war. Like this kid is going to know violence. He's going to do boxing. He's going to do jiu-jitsu. The kid's been working out. He's been in the gym since he's a week old. I don't know if you saw the video on Instagram. Like he comes,
you got like little barbells for him or something.
He's got little 1-pound dumbbells, and he's like doing shrugs and curls and presses, and he just does what he sees. He just emulates what he sees. So I don't have to influence him one way or the other. I just have to be a role model.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's where we miss things.
Yeah.
Kids don't learn by us telling, do this, do that.
Nope.
No, they watch you. They watch you work. They watch where you spend your time and energies. So like, if you want your kids to be a certain way, you can't be the fat ass dad on the sidelines at the wrestling match or the soccer match, telling them how to do something when your fat old ass can't do it at all. I want my dad. So when Dimitri is 15, I'll be 55. So I want him to look at me and go, yeah, when I'm 55, I want to be like him. Not be like, oh, my dad's old.
Yeah, he can't come out and hang out with us because he's old as shit.
Yeah, he's old, and he can't really move that well, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I think it's huge, man. Just be, like you said, being the role model. Kids are not gonna really like listen to you. They're gonna watch what you do and emulate you. So. But
then you take that aggression, right? You take that young man's aggression and you channel it. You teach him how to use it. You don't stifle it. You teach him what it is and how to utilize it. And I have this kind of thing that I'm writing, and I don't want to share it yet, but it's like the thought process of, why do we train? We answer that question. Why do we protect? We answer that question. And it's basically like essentially a poem, but it leads you down the road of like why we do all the things that we do. So each one that we do leads us to the next thing. Well, why do we do that? Well, why do we do that? And essentially is because that is our role as a man.
Yeah. And so we covered a lot of ground here, Nick. I want to ask one last question.
Yeah.
I've started asking it to everybody. And so, if anybody else is coming on, then, you'll get asked this question too. But so Pretty much every guy, like there are some exceptions, obviously, like has the ability, like physically, like to become a father,
Yeah.
right? Like produce offspring. But there's a big difference in between the ability to, to have kids and actually being a dad. So in your opinion, what is a dad and like what is the role of the dad?
Oh man, a dad, and this doesn't even have to be a biological. There's plenty
Hmm.
of shit biological fathers out there,
Hmm.
but man, a dad, that is the protector, the provider, the professor. He is the role model, um, the wise men of everything. If you are a good dad, then your kid's superhero is you.
I love that.
If they don't look at you and go, you are my superhero, you're the one that I want to be like when I grow up, then you're not doing the things that you need to be doing. And what I mean by that is either they have access to something, to look at something or see something or watch something that goes against what your morals, ethics are, or you're simply not leading by example.
Yeah, I
And
love
that's
it,
like,
man.
and essentially that right there is the niche target customer of our customer for the Agogi.
Hmm.
It is
Yeah,
100% that. It is men that have realized that and go, shit,
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do as a husband and a father, and it's time to right this ship. And man, let me tell you, you want to get talking about getting choked up? When you get a man who has not done those things, but makes that corner and turns that corner, talking about what it does for their relationship with their wife, what it does for the relationship with their kids is absolutely mind-blowing. It is not too late to be the best version of yourself and to change your whole family aspect. Uh, One of the guys who won, I think he's the only two-time Agogi Challenge winner.
Hmm.
His name's John Mark Kennedy. His wife, shortly after he did the challenge. We actually hired his wife as our customer service rep. Um, so they talked about getting. She's actually doing the challenge for the first time herself. Um, and they talked about him getting in shape and how big he was. Now he's like, he just scanned at the gym. He's like less than 8% body fat. He's like
Jeez.
7.5. He's like 215, 7.5,
Oh, that's a
6
monster
foot,
right there.
6 foot. He's a monster now, absolute monster. And he wasn't before. So he did that. She did that. She's doing the challenge. She's like dropped, they've got 4 kids. She's 44 years old. She looks amazing. Right. And in the gym yesterday, she was talking about her kids and how when they started to get healthy, all of the kids started doing it organically by themselves.
Hmm.
Their 18-year-old, he comes in the gym, they're 18-year-old, and I don't have any influence over these people, right? Other than social media and stuff and what I say. And they just took on the challenge and got into the Agogi and it changed their lives. But their 18-year-old is an absolute beast. I mean, like, he's one of the guys you would see on Instagram, and you're like, how does this kid do that? Calisthenics out, like the most, like things that you and I probably cannot do. You know what I mean? Um, and they all said that it was when they started to get healthy and eat right that all of the kids followed suit.
Yeah, it's good. Like we just talked about, like they're not going to listen to what you say. They're going to watch what you do.
They saw the change that their dad made, and they all got into it. And now
Mm.
they're like, the whole family's like training in the gym in the afternoon.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful thing. It's a
yeah.
beautiful thing. Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, I've seen the challenge online and stuff, right? I haven't really dove into it. So tell me, like, what do you bring people through? Like, what can they expect when they raise their hand
So,
and say,
yeah. So
"Hey, I'm
the
not as tall as I want to be."
30-day so our Gogi 30-day challenge is, so mainly what we do is one-on-one. And we had this idea of like, okay, not everybody can either do one-on-one or afford it or whatnot. So like, how can we take what the pillars, which are fitness, discipline, belief, and tribe, how can we take those 4 pillars of the Agogi and then give somebody the ability to get a taste to where they could better themselves? And maybe
Yeah.
all they needed was a nugget to get them. So I'm like, So it started a long time ago. We did this like really cheap, like Excel spreadsheet kind of challenge. And it did, it was okay, but it was the birth of it. In a way it failed. But it gave us the ability. One, it showed us interest that people want it. There's a certain group of people that want to get better. They just need to know how. So we finally, it birthed into the 30-day Agoge challenge. What that is each week we go over these pillars.
Okay.
Like today we're doing a live feed for the challenge members that are wrapping up this challenge. And we talk about each pillar and the why and all that kind of stuff. So, but what you get is you get either, depending on where you're at, you get a training plan. It's a 30-day training plan, something every day. You have a whole schedule that you have to do. It's like a lot of times, we do a lot of families, a lot of couples do it together, which I think is awesome. And we had one couple that took first and second. He took first and she took second. So they got like $1,500. So they paid $200 to get in the challenge and they won $1,500. So you get a month's worth of workouts. You have to do like 20-minute walks with your family or your significant other. You've got to do like read a book, podcast, some sort of self-development thing. And then this is where the value is that I don't think anybody does. We actually build you a custom meal plan. So our coaches go through and manually look at your data and manually create you a custom meal plan and give you macronutrients for the month.
Yeah, that's gold right there.
For $99, you get a month worth of training, a month worth of coaching, and a custom meal plan for you and your body, where you're at and what you need for the month.
Yeah, that's legit.
Carbs, fats, and proteins. And that's the biggest thing is we realize, and it's this, I'll be honest, a little bit of a trick, and I'll tell you why. The biggest thing people struggle with is nutrition. They just don't know how to eat. And overall, because if you're eating out, if you're eating anything, like we are over consuming. And everybody wants to talk about, well, this diet and this blood type and that blood type, and this is the right diet, and carnivore is the way to go, keto is the way to go, vegan's the way to go. It's all bullshit. All of it's horseshit. It's just about balance. It's about, you need a certain amount of carbs, certain amount of protein, certain amount of fat. If you want to lose weight, you got to be in a deficit, period. It's just the way it works. Well, I'm in a deficit. I'm not losing weight. Guess what? You're not in a deficit. Because scientifically, if you're in a deficit,
you will lose weight. Yeah.
Period. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, no, I'm definitely in a deficit. If you're not losing weight, you're not in a deficit. Sorry, I hate to pop your bubble. So what we do is we build them a custom meal plan. And then what that does is it teaches them what and how to eat. It's like, oh, I can eat this and I'm done for the day. Or I can eat this 6-ounce steak, this salad, and some rice, and I get to eat 3 more times a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of people learn that. What's the cheat is we have about a 10% conversion from challenges to one-on-one. When I get people to go from a challenge to one-on-one, they're so successful because when they go one-on-one, if you just call me and Drew, like, hey, I want to go one-on-one coaching right now. Then I go, oh, geez, the first month is going to be a shit show. You know what I mean? Like, I just try to clean up your habits in your life for the first month. And we run a 5-month program. So it's like, well, now I've only got, it's going to take me a month to, essentially.
Yeah, that Agoge challenge is kind of like the month, like on
exactly,
pretty much,
Yeah. So when they come on after a challenge, they're like, they're pumped. They've already got results. We've already got their nutrition dialed in.
Yeah, so you just accelerate them from that point,
Well, actually, we slow them down.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually slow them down. So we want to get to. So with the challenge, it's 30 days. It's hard. It's a punch in the face. It's very intense. They're in a deficit. So then once we go one-on-one, we sit down with them and go, "What's your real goals?
Yeah.
What do you want to look like naked? What do you want to? Do you want to run a marathon? Do you want to climb a mountain? Do you want to just lose weight? Do you want to do a bodybuilding show? What's your real goals?" And then we start talking about sleep. We talk about output. We talk about input. We talk about relationships with their wife. Talk about their job. Are you happy with your job? Where are you at on purpose? You know what I mean? So that's when we really start getting that one-on-one relationship, and we start focusing on how they need to be and where they're lacking. and how can we fix that through diet, exercise, and routine and things like that. So, but man, it's so much easier when they go through a challenge, they knock out all that we detox them from the world, you know what I mean? Essentially detox them from society and then get them in the challenge. And now they have a full 5 months of real one-on-one progress.
Yeah. It's like basic training,
Right.
Just knock all that shit out, get all of that.
Knock it out, break them down, get them back down to base level, and then start building them up.
Yeah. And is this challenge for everyone? Like everyone. Who's right for it? Let's just say who's wrong for it.
That if you don't want to put in work.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell people, like at the very beginning of the challenge, I'm like, let me get something straight. This is your challenge. I'm going to show you the yellow brick road. The coaches and I are going to show you the yellow brick road. You have to walk it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get an email saying, well, this didn't work and that didn't work. And I can't figure this out. And I can't figure that out. Like, this is your challenge to better your life. That $99 ain't doing shit for me. So if you want it back, sure, take it back.
Yeah.
Do not show up thinking that you are going to get like handheld, I guess, away. Like, we do give you like a hand, but I can't come to your house and wake you up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I can't come to your house and measure your fucking rice. You know what I mean? I can't come to your house and say, hey, it's 5:30. Instead of watching Netflix, you need to go take your whole family for a 20-minute walk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are things that you have to do. This is your challenge. This is the benefit is 100% for you, not me.
Mm-hmm.
So take some ownership of this challenge and make it your challenge.
Yeah.
And that's my intro.
Okay. No, I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I did. I'll talk to you offline. I did a 28-day challenge for the Epic Dad Company. It sounds kind of like when you first started. It was like, it was cool, but it was like a lot of shit that I was like, yeah, I should definitely.
You have to run them though.
Be different.
Yeah, you got to run the beta. You got to run the beta to figure it out. Though,
yeah,
man.
It was fun though, man. It was really fun, and get some guys results and kind of get out of your comfort zone as the business owner.
You know what? You be honest with it. Be honest with them and say, hey man, we're running a beta challenge.
That's what I told him. Yeah, I was
I'm gonna fuck all this up, and we're gonna work on that. You know.
Yeah.
What I mean? Yeah.
So, but one day, man, dude, I know you got to run. I appreciate you coming on. I know the listeners got a ton of value from this, and I will link to Nick where you guys can find him, and a link to the Yogi Challenge as well. So Nick, man, I appreciate it, dude. Let's definitely stay connected. I'd love to to bring you on here 6 months from now and shoot the shit again, see what we're all doing.
Absolutely, yeah, these are great.